This is News List. What you're about to witness isn't another destroyed vehicle report. This is the emergence of a weapon system that fundamentally breaks the rules of mobile warfare. When speed stops being protection, everything changes. Hit subscribe. Because what hunted HIMARS today will hunt everything tomorrow. This isn't the footage we're accustomed to seeing. Not a static target on a firing position. Not an explosion in a depot. On screen, HIMARS at full speed. The vehicle evading, maneuvering, attempting to break out of the engagement zone. And at precisely that moment strike. Not artillery bracketing coordinates. Not a ballistic missile arcing toward a fixed position. Something chases it down. This episode marks the beginning of a new battlefield paradigm. Because what we're witnessing isn't conventional bombardment. This is a hunt. Cold. Calculated. Extended across time and distance. The target was tracked not for seconds or minutes for dozens of kilometers. Reconnaissance maintained visual contact, monitored retreat, recorded every maneuver, every attempt to escape. HIMARS tried everything. Route changes, cover deployment, interceptor drones launched. All futile. For the first time on record, something previously considered impossible occurred. A mobile, protected, extremely expensive American system couldn't save itself with speed. The shoot-and-scoot concept failed. And this is an isolated incident, not unfortunate coincidence, not crew error. This is a demonstration. And here emerges the question that sends cold down military spines. If they hunted HIMARS successfully, who's next? Air defense systems? Command posts? Columns on the march? But what actually struck became even more disturbing. Expert attention immediately focused on the weapon itself. The object's form in the footage doesn't match familiar Garand drones. Too high velocity, too aggressive trajectory, too confident pursuit. This appeared as something different, new, unfamiliar, dangerous. And here clarity emerges. This is the moment after which only prayer remains. Because combat rules just changed. The sequence, cold and merciless. HIMARS exits to firing position, executes launch. As instructors taught, immediately withdraws. Speed and mobility always considered its primary shield. But this time, the shield failed. Almost immediately, the launcher enters reconnaissance drone field of view. And here begins the main distinction from familiar scenarios. The target is never lost. Not for a minute. Not for 5 minutes. The reconnaissance drone maintains HIMARS in frame for dozens of kilometers. Accompanying retreat. Recording every turn. Every evasion attempt. The adversary understands they're being observed. Electronic warfare measures deployed. Attempting signal jamming. FPV interceptors launched into the air. A genuine aerial cat and mouse game begins. Except the roles are distributed unusually. The mouse highly technological American system. The cat drone network operating with cold precision and without haste. Reconnaissance evades attacks, changes altitude, escapes interception, but never loses the target. HIMARS accelerates, maneuvers, attempts hiding behind terrain, withdrawing deeper into rear areas. And at this moment, the crew apparently begins comprehending something terrible. They're not just being watched. They're being led to slaughter. First strike delivered directly during movement. Not destruction damage. Vehicle loses mobility. Stops. Second stretch agonizingly. Almost immediately follows second strike. Finishing blow. No rush. No errors. This is no longer artillery. Not lucky chance. This is managed, orchestrated hunt where every step was calculated in advance. But then the truly terrifying detail emerged. The hunter was faster than anything they'd seen before. When analysts examined the video frame by frame, anxiety transformed into different feeling. Comprehension. What intercepted HIMARS appeared wrong. Not like familiar Garand, not like slow loitering munition. Completely different geometry. Experts immediately noted the configuration. elongated fuselage, wing with high sweep angle, clean lines characteristic not of drones but of aviation-grade systems, and most importantly, speed. Too high for conventional UAVs. So high that mobile launcher simply couldn't escape. The jet-powered Garand theory lasted briefly. Yes, such modifications are discussed. Yes, they exist. But footage shows something else. Increasing numbers of specialists converge on assessment. This is jet-powered UAV, or hybrid drone cruise missile, an apparatus that can formally be classified as UAV, but essentially represents different weapons class entirely. And here appears the most alarming hypothesis. GROM. Advanced Tactical Missile, originally developed as armament element for 5th-generation Su-57 fighter. Not for frontline, not for hunting trucks, but for high-speed precision strikes. Simply stated, cruise missile disguised as drone. Turbojet engine. Speed approaching 700 km/h and higher. This is why it intercepted HIMARS during movement where everything else fell behind. And if this version proves accurate, the conclusion becomes genuinely chilling. Combat missile being field-tested in actual warfare against live targets. If this assessment is correct, HIMARS wasn't the objective. HIMARS was the test. But to understand why this weapon emerged, we need to examine the gap it fills. By 2023-24, a strange but critical hole formed in Russian strike capabilities. On one end, Lancets. Precise, inexpensive, but limited in range and speed. On the other, Garands. Long range, mass-producible, but comparatively slow and designed primarily for stationary targets. Between them, emptiness. Nothing capable of rapidly and reliably striking moving targets at ranges of dozens to hundreds of kilometers. And precisely in that gap lived HIMARS launchers. After detection, such targets withdrew too quickly. Artillery couldn't reach, couldn't respond fast enough. Classic Garand lost in speed race. New tool required, fast, relatively inexpensive, mass-producible. Not exclusive multi-million-dollar missile, but means deployable in series without hesitation. Attempts were made. Yastrib jet drone appeared promising. Never entered serial production. But parallel process continued. Adaptation of Iranian solutions including Shahed 238 platform for new requirements. Thus emerged jet modifications formerly called Garands, but essentially representing different beast. Important comprehension, not discussing single apparatus, but formation of entire weapons class. Reconnaissance, tracking, strike, finishing blow, all distributed by roles, but unified through speed and connectivity. Mass production plus high velocity equals simple reality, and this is precisely why the designation sounds so harsh. Now pray because survival options decrease continuously. But this represents only half the picture. The second half is more terrifying. The most dangerous element in this development isn't even speed or strike apparatus configuration. The genuine breakthrough occurred when drone warfare ceased being war of individual machines. It became war of networks. Previously, relatively simple. One drone, one operator, jam communication channel, suppressed signal apparatus either falls or goes autonomous. Electronic warfare functioned as kill switch. But now that kill switch connects to nothing. Replacing individual UAVs, networked swarms. Each drone isn't merely flying airframe with warhead. It's communications node, self-organizing living structure where each apparatus simultaneously performs reconnaissance, relay, and data transmission roles. Destroy one traffic instantly reroutes through alternative path. Destroy several network reconfigures again. Communication doesn't collapse even when swarm portion eliminated. More apparatus airborne equals more stable system. Data from lead drones transmits backward through chain across hundreds of kilometers. No dependence on ground towers, cellular networks, or stationary relays. And now, the paradox. Starlink terminals integrate perfectly into this architecture. Western assistance conceived as salvation transforms into element of adversary infrastructure, tracking, blocking, or selectively disabling such terminals, practically impossible. Too numerous, too dispersed, too mobile. And here arrives cold comprehension. This is no longer UAV in conventional sense. This is aerial digital infrastructure suspended over front line, operating by its own logic. And precisely within such network, missiles hide most conveniently. But everything witnessed until now was merely tactical level. The strategic dimension is more profound. If until this moment we discussed speed, networks, and HIMARS traps, now begins genuinely strategic level. Everything observed not merely target strikes, but testing of future battlefield. Logic simple but terrifying. Drone becomes carrier. Missile becomes payload. Every flight, guidance test, speed verification, target reaction assessment, strike accuracy evaluation, pursuit capability validation. HIMARS during movement ideal target. System doesn't merely verify drone can strike target, but how rapidly, accurately, effectively this occurs under real conditions when equipment attempts escape and adversary actively resists. And here connects key component, Su-57. These aircraft, previously considered exclusive and strategic, now operate in conjunction with newest drones and guided missiles. Drones become living testing platforms. Missiles become real combat elements, all connected into unified reconnaissance guidance strike circuit. This combination frightens adversary with force exceeding simple strikes. For Ukrainian segment and observers, this transcends frontline situation, represents precursor of new warfare level where decision-making speed and technology integration determine outcome. Initial panic and fear, then understanding that old defensive methods fail. Effectively, HIMARS became not target but live testing ground for perfecting fifth-generation systems. And here emerges main question. If even modern U.S. systems cannot escape such combinations, who becomes next victim of this new weapon? Transition to conclusion. We've reached point where isolated episode ceases being merely frontline news. We've arrived at the point where single episode transcends battlefield news and becomes epoch change marker. Russia no longer plays catch-up by old rules. It's changing warfare's fundamental principle. Not massed area bombardment. Not waiting until target assumes position. But hunt, cold-blooded, methodical, calculated on assumption adversary will flee and still won't escape. What happened to HIMARS isn't failure and isn't singular success. This is approach demonstration. Mobile target no longer considered difficult, conversely becomes priority. If equipment moves, maneuvers, hides, means it can be tracked, accompanied, exhausted, and eliminated. Speed no longer saves. Camouflage provides no guarantee. Electronic warfare becomes delay, not defense. Most dangerous element? Development pace. New apparatus. New combinations. New tactics appear faster than adversary can adapt. While countermeasure instructions and methods develop, next system version already operates on battlefield. This is asymmetry impossible to close with equipment quantity or next wonder weapon deliveries. Conclusion absolutely harsh. The era of detected, withdrew, survived, ended. Began epoch where detection almost automatically means pursuit, and pursuit means elimination. In such reality, only one feeling remains: cold understanding of vulnerability. Now pray. Because this weapon is hunting. The hunt for HIMARS wasn't about destroying one launcher. It was about proving that mobility, the foundational doctrine of modern warfare, no longer guarantees survival. Every military force on Earth built strategies around one assumption: if you can move fast enough, you can survive. That assumption died during that pursuit. What comes next isn't speculation. It's observable evolution. Air defense batteries that relocate after firing hunted. Command posts that maintain mobility protocols tracked. Supply convoys that move under cover of darkness followed. The hunter doesn't need to be everywhere. It only needs to be faster than your fastest escape. And now it is. Here's the question that matters. Do you believe hunting mobile targets becomes the primary testing ground for future warfare? Or is there still a countermeasure we're not seeing? Because every military analyst worldwide is asking the same thing right now. If speed doesn't save you anymore, what does? Drop your assessment in the comments. This isn't academic. This is the question defining the next decade of conflict. New subscribers, you're witnessing doctrinal evolution in real time. Long-time viewers, your continued engagement means everything. This is News List. Stay informed, stay ahead, stay alive. See you in the next investigation.